Hey guys, so in this episode we're going to talk about two conditions, hard start and no start. And I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. So in the no start, right, specifically, you go to pull the handle, right, and it literally kicks back, you hear it fart a little bit, and it just rips right out of your hand. And in some cases you might hurt yourself depending upon what kind of handle it is. It might break. That's actually happened to me. It'll cut your hand up pretty good. One of the reasons for that, and particularly the reason for why it would rip out of your hand, is because it's a timing problem. Now, how can that happen, right? Well, somebody ran over something. So if you guys ran over something and you borked your blade and you go and you put a new blade on it, and this is happening, then that would be the reason. So you actually spun the flywheel on the crankshaft, you broke the little, it's called a Woodruff key, right? So you snap that, and it's designed to happen because it's a safety to protect the engine itself, right? But you know, things can get worse from there. So if you borked your blade, or, right, like me, maybe you want to do this on the side or get into it for a living, or you're just starting out, right? And you go and you pick up a bunch of machines or a particular machine, and the customer says, excuse me, the seller says, I got these machines, or I got this machine, it don't run, and you look at the blade, and maybe the guy put a brand new blade on it. And he's like, oh, I got a brand new blade on it, but it won't run, right? So we're talking about scenarios like that. You see a brand new blade on, and it's not running. This could be your problem. Or you know you did it, right? Because I've done it. I did it when I was a kid. I wrecked a beautiful lawn boy my father gave me for like brand new, for like, anyway, that just brings back like really tearful memories. That's what we're going to look into today. So those are the kind of conditions we're talking about. I have, in this example, I have a couple of nice black Craftsman front-wheel drive machines, Silver Series engine. They're all basically 190cc flathead design, right? There's not an overhead valve design. All of the Briggs motors, even for the most part, even the overhead valve designs, this can happen to them. So one size fits all on this one, guys. Let's dig into this and take a look. And I'll go over two different machines, and I'm also going to go over two different ways to get the flywheel off, right? And so that'll be broken up. So there's one way that I think is a better way, and one way is just another way of doing it with a big hammer, right? And a pry bar, crowbar. And then kind of how to put everything back, and then finally we'll finish up with just a test of the machine. So anyway, let's get started on this one, and hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I'll see you in a little bit. So I just want to take a peek, and this way I recommend always doing this, because you wouldn't want to put all this back together and then, oh yeah, all right, let me get you in. Let me just wire wheel this up, and I can bring it back in and give you a little better look. I gotta put a regulator on that line. Sometimes these things don't like coming off. I'm gonna put again a little bit of this on there, special sauce. It makes things easier. Now, bring it in a minute. Now, there's two ways to get that off. You can slam it off, all right, or you can tap. These are already drilled, so you can tap it off and put a puller on. I usually slam them off, but I'm going to do it the right way, because when you slam it, if you don't do it right, you could crack the case, you could bend something, you could break something, you could damage the top of the threads, you can screw your motor up, right? But if you tap it and you use a puller, right, that's not going to happen. So let me bring you in. So here's the keyway cut into the shaft. There's a little bit what's left. And then this is the key itself that's been sheared. So what I like to do is, they're already drilled, so a lot of people use quarter 24, which is fine, but you don't need to do that on a Briggs. I've got a tap here, right? This type of tap is not a flat bottoming tap. It's good for starting, so it's a tapered tap. And I really like to use these because they start nice and straight and easy. Now what you can do, so I'm going to release the brake so that it holds the flywheel. I just use Velcro to hold the bail back, the Christian bail. Where is that guy? Is he still around? And what I'll do is, now generally speaking, you don't need a flat bottom tap for these flywheels. there's usually enough meat in there, right? Don't break it, go down and then bring it back out and you feel resistance, you know, beyond the normal. So I'll do both. Give it a blow. Low pressure air. You know, you don't need to be blowing everything all over the place with high pressure air. All right, and now I'll go in with the bottoming tap just to show you. Now you could take, this is a bottoming tap, it just has, it's still got a taper on it, but it has that point. And I'll show you guys in a minute. I just ground the point off because sometimes you break your bottoming taps. This will just give me a few more threads in the bottom. Now for Tecumseh, right, and some of the others, where they don't have as much of a boss to go into, right, you definitely want to roll in, finish up with a bottoming tap, roll that in there. And I'll wipe these things off in a bit and I'll show you the differences. And I have them on different handles because I do this a lot. Every year I get so many of them. Now there's a good chance that flywheel's no good, and I'll get you in on that too. I don't like to reuse the flywheels because it's aluminum. Some of the flywheels, the older ones, they had a sleeve, and I'll show you, I think if I find one, I'll show you that. If not, a lot of times the aluminum flywheel has a steel sleeve. And those usually survive, but these aluminum ones, right, the crankshaft wins. The crankshaft and the key distort the hole pretty bad. So let me move this out of the way. All right, so here's the two taps. So we have a bottoming tap, 1/4-20, and then of course our tapered tap, and that's for starting threads. Right. And then I modified one, an older one, just to get those extra few threads. In fact, if you want to get a few more threads, you could grind it back even further and get it as sharp as you can. It still has a bit of a taper on it. Just don't overheat it. If you turn it blue, right, you've made it weak. Now I have like this tool. It's a KD tool. It's KD 2291, made in USA. It's a little older one. I also use steering wheel pullers. There's all kinds of things. But you know, because I've been in automotive, and I just took some bolts. So these are this screw type threaded rod. I've used that, and I got a thick washer and a smaller washer that fits the head of the bolt. So I got a nice thick washer on here, because otherwise it'll try to pull through. And all we're going to do is just tighten it up enough. And now this crankshaft is not, if you notice, it's not drilled. It's not counter drilled, so there's no center location. And I like this particular tool because it's got a flat bottom on it. It's got a sort of a, what do you call those things where it's able to rotate? It's like a bushing, and it's flat and it's wide, and it'll support the tool on the tip of the crankshaft properly. All right, they get a little bit bent. Well, that's pretty close. Now let's start tightening up and see who hits who. This one could use a little bit more. All right, that should do it. As long as it's nice and straight. Now let me get my rattling tool. Try not to let it bend, because it's going to try to bend on you. Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Now, sometimes they'll really give you a hard time, but if you clean it first and do what I just did, it'll come out. Or you can apply heat. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll put pressure on it, a decent amount of pressure on it, and I'll put heat on it, and it'll just pop. And now I didn't damage the crankshaft or shock the motor. I always hated the idea of shocking a motor. But, right, I've seen a lot of manuals where, you know, the manual from the manufacturer says do it. Oh boy. Let me get you in tight, and I'll show you what this looks like. We got to clean it up. Let's pick that out. Let's look in here. See, that piece fell out. Yeah, we got to clean that up and see. A lot of times it widens that hole, or that slot, and it damages it, creates a step. Well, we'll find out. We got to clean that, and we got to clean this. Let's see. There's one part of it. All right, wire wheel. All right, once again, we'll grab our wire wheel. We'll clean this up first. You gotta get in there with a brush or something. Clean out that slot. Now, while we're here, all right, we know we got good spark, so but while we're here, I'm just going to use one of these cartridges real quick and go in here just so that I can see. I'm going to do it by hand. Don't use sandpaper, really. Oh yeah, she's damaged. Yeah, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get you to see that, but it's been rolled back. You got to pull your brake back now to install it. All right, pull the brake back. So when you drop it on, right, and if it's not lining up well, yeah, it's wobbly, but it's not even wanting to line up. What'll happen is it'll move slightly, and a tiny little bit of movement here translates to a lot of movement out here, which will change the timing. And you could wind up with hard starts, pulling back out of your hand. It'll be close to, you know, when this spins, depending on how far it spins, if it only spins a little bit, what you're going to notice is that it's going to kick back and rip the pull cord out of your hand and probably break the plastic pull handle, right? And hurt you. You'll hurt yourself. If it goes even further, it just won't start. It might fart a little bit or something, but it won't even start, won't even run. So probably this thing was pretty far off, so probably didn't even run. So what'll happen here with this is that it could move. And while you go to tightening it down, if you don't line it up right, it could move. And I'm not, you know, I have others, I take them off of donors, and over time, the vibrations might make it move. You know, what happens is the guy hits something. And if you hit something, you hit something. You know, if you hit it hard enough, it could dislodge it and move it. If you broke something, you broke something. So you'll see the blade is all bent up. And if you bought the lawnmower and somebody popped the blade on, it's got a new blade and it's still not running, there you go, right? Now, hopefully it didn't damage anything inside the motor, but we won't find out until we get to the next step. Let me go see where, I know I have a lot of these out. I put them in 2 different places and I need them all in one spot because they're hard to get to whenever I put them away. I'll be back in a bit.
20 minutes later.
Here's the key, a new one, or a newer one. And this is, I just cleaned this one up, and while I was there, I also cleaned up, you know, the magnet face. So let's go put it on. All right, now I want to show you a simple way to deal with it. Now I like to put a little bit of lubricant just on there on top of everything. So this is tranny fluid, to sweeten the seal. And Honda says no, don't do that, but I like to do it. So I'm just going to put it on. Make sure you pull back the brake, right? Line it up. And it should just go right in. Now you may have to lift it up a little bit to do it. So I'm going to go put you down for a minute. If it's a used key, just make sure there isn't any damage on it. Most of the time they go right in. You want to put it widthwise, see? So that's the width. You'll notice that there is actually a narrow way and a width way, right? Some way that's a little wider. So I like to just lift it up a little bit if it gets a little stuck, and then push it down. And if it's a little stuck pushing it down, you can just take a screwdriver and tap it, but it went right in, right? So we don't have any issues there. And that's it, it's done. Now, there's a lot less movement, but there still is movement, and that's with one that's in good shape. You can see a tiny little bit of movement here, equates to an awful lot of movement out here. So let's see, we'll find a spot. I gotta find a spot for you that I can hold straight for you. And you'll see a little bit of movement. Look at all that movement. Right, wait, hold on, let me line it. See? Right, so if that's really worn, right, it'll be all over the place. That's going to affect the timing. So line it up, put it widthwise, drop this guy down, and then we're going to blammo this down. Now you can tighten it. I don't know what the torque rating is, but almost nobody ever torques it. All right, I'm just going to try to hold it. And we're done. Now, I'm going to work on the rest of this system, so we have other things to do. But in a little while, right, when I'm done with all the rest of the things, we'll put it together and we'll test it naturally. But this should do it. Another way to get one of these flywheels off is by brute force and complete ignorance, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my ignorance cap on. But no, seriously, I'm going to show you guys another way using a nice pry bar. I am going to use this to start off with. We're going to get the nut off because why not? Let me put a little bit of my, this, you can use 2-stroke, penetrating fluid, whatever, but this has got the transmission fluid in it. We're going to leave that in there for a minute. And I'm going to place the pry-bar in a good location. Now, there's a couple locations you don't want to do. I took the coil off. You don't want to be here because the intake tube is here. It's plastic, so you'll break that, right? You don't want to be right over here because this is where the governor setup is. So you'll bend that and break that. Well, we're running out of spots, right? Well, there are other places, okay? Now, there is a place right around here. But you got to be real careful that you don't hit the tube. And I'm going to show you in a minute. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera on the other side. See, it's already starting to move it up, right? Let me get you a close-up. We'll go from the other side. We still have something else to do, too. Now, we got to put the nut back. And when you put the nut back, you got to make sure it's recessed. Now, this one here, when we get the camera up close, it has a little recess. It's a chamfer on top of the crankshaft bolt. Not all of them have that, but let me get you in close and I'll show you what I mean. See what I see? Uh-oh! A ventilated block. Awesome. Wow. You can see here that it just started to cock. So there's a misalignment. This flywheel might be okay. Here's the chamfer, and we'll go back to showing you what I want to do. Now here's where I've got the pry bar in, and so what it's actually resting on, so you want to be away from this tube. It's actually resting on this location right here, this boss. Now another place you probably could put it is here, but as I show you, it's very hard to get it in there. And I think you're going to wind up causing problems. You could put it there. If you bend that, though, you'll have a hard time. See, like this thing here, right? This is the shutoff. So this is the kill. It's a switch. So if you bend that down, right, you're not going to have that. You might be able to get it in over here if you take this out. I'll show you. You could probably get it in over here. And it'll pry upwards, but you're not going to get the same leverage, right? But this would also be a safe location. I've done it here before, so we're going to try that. Just make sure it's right on that edge. All right, we'll be back in a minute. Now I've got two nice hammers. I got the big boy here. This guy's getting a little loose. I got to rebond it. And I've got this one, which is a lead hammer. But I think we're going to try this one first. Now, it should only take a couple of shots, so I'm going to push down on the pry bar, just a good force, not trying to break anything. Now, if I could turn it, I would move it to the area where there is more meat, right? Because here there's not a lot of meat. Over here where the magnets are, there's more meat, but I can't turn it, so the motor's locked up. Okay? And that's it. And that's enough. Right now, it probably could have been done with the other mallet. So this might be damaged. Now, I pulled the brake back. You got to have your brake back. I have it tied back up there with a piece of Velcro. So that's out of the way. And I'll take a look in here, but this might be damaged. All right. Yeah, it creates a cheek. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to see it, but if you have one, you'll see it. All right, you can see now, it fits in there good, but notice all that movement there. And see how much movement it equates to over here where you're going to get your timing. Oh, I got a glare. See it all? That's a lot. Okay. And so if you don't lock that down properly, you could be considerably off. Look at all that. Let me check the other one that I have. Totally different installation. Right now, I could also replace the key because the key's been torqued a little bit. It's not broken, but watch. Watch over here. Barely any movement, right? That's fine, okay? That's not going to be enough to make a hill of beans. All right, so like I say, most of the time, these things are no good. Okay, so this flywheel might be okay. What it does is because it's aluminum, it if you got your slot, right, well, it takes the slot and crushes it and moves it like that. And that creates a lot of clearance. And as I show in the earlier portion of this video and the other way that I'm doing it, it can throw your timing off. Now, if you don't have another flywheel, you don't want to spend the money, I get it. Do the best you can to kind of get it lined up dead on and tighten everything down, right? Personally, because I get so many of these things, I like to start off with fresh virgin flywheels and I save them whenever I can. This motor's dead, guys. I'm going to continue on with this project. This project's going to get another motor, which is another video. For this part of the video, I think we're done. At the end, after this, I'll just show you what I did with the previous machine, and we'll see it running, and it's all done, ready to go, ready for sale. Beautiful machine. These things come out really nice. So no matter what machine you have, this is a simple procedure. Now, as far as taking off all the accessories and the cover plates and everything, if you watch some of my other lawnmower videos where I go through that, you'll see it. It's pretty self-explanatory, so you guys can figure that one out. I'm going to continue with this project. I will see you on the next one. Archer's Garage. Well, let's just, it's got gas in it, it's got everything. Doesn't need anything. Let's just give it a pull. It should start right up with the 2 poles.